this is what we're going to make. Giant 1802. Now, as you know, Giant 1801, right next to it, was my contest-winning locomotive. We've made a companion for Giant 1801, number 1802. 1802 has got a couple of fiber optic strands, cut off ends, stuck in its headlights. It's got a cab light. It's got a rotary beacon. It's got a Digitrax DH126 in it. And it is a pretty cool locomotive. It's got silicone hose drive shafts. And yes, you can do this. And I'm going to show you how. Silicone hose. You hear nothing but my furnace, and there he is. Oh yeah, check out the purple ground effects. Yeah, they turned out pretty cool. In the dark, they're even cooler. I didn't put truck lights in. I put in some SMD ultraviolet purple lights underneath the locomotive. I had no problem doing that, and you won't either. And there he is. That's what we're going to make. That's our guy. Let's make him. Okay, here it is. What we're going to do, SD40T-2, picked up at a train show. Handrails are all here. They're really rusty, but they're all here. We're going to rebuild this and turn it into our next giant. In case you forgot, let me grab the previous giant. We're going to make these guys in the same family right there. Same road. The giant terminal on the layout comes from the opposite direction of everyone else. So we want to do this to this. And then we'll make a nice pair of them. So let's see what we got. Let's open her up, get it assembled, and get it cooking. We got a lot of work to do on this thing. Let's see if we can go ahead. Okay. Yep. And there we go. Shells off. Ooh, look at that. Wow. Okay, I'm impressed. I didn't know what was under here. It's got replacement drive shafts. Unless these are something way newer than every other tunnel motor I have, these might be aftermarkets. There's almost no rust, so that's pretty good. But let's go ahead and break it all down. Go ahead and remove the worm covers. Take out the worms and the shafts. Ooh, it's got hex shafts. Okay. Well, that makes life pretty easy. Okay. Let's take our trucks out. Take these couplers off. Let's go ahead and remove this light bracket, since we don't use those. Alright. So now we need something to hold this guy. Whoops. There we go. Now let us find an ear nail. We need an ear nail of the right size. We're going to get that motor out of there. So somewhere in here we got an ear nail, just the right size. Too big. Too small. Oh yeah. Let's see if that's just about right. We're gonna rest on here like that, and we are going to tap, 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 tap. There we go. That's way better than just poking them with something and pounding them out. The right size ear nail does the trick. And we didn't damage nothing. We got our donkey kicker. Okay. Ooh, nice engine. Or nice motor. Not going to be the motor goes back in there. But, yeah, now. Let's set that aside. Let's get these trucks opened up. Okay. So that side frames are nice and tight. So we're just going to get this back clip here by coming in through the side and lifting her up. Get the front one. Kind of the same way. If you can get in here without breaking nothing. Smaller screwdriver. Okay, smaller screwdriver. Smaller. Let's try doing it this way. There we go. Get that out of there. Okay. All right, I'll set these parts over here. Now, trick on getting the bottom one off is do not pry it, right? We don't do that. We get in with the small screwdriver and we press down. And this one being extra long, we're going to get in there with an even smaller screwdriver. See if we can get this guy right in there. Yep, yep, yep. That's how you do it. Press down, he'll come out, and you didn't have to break anything. Just go ahead and pry it off this way. Oops, oops. There we go. Okay. Notice I didn't break it. Interesting. So, got all this new stuff under here. But we have got the oldest version of these wheel sets. No big deal. We're going to polish those. Whoa. This thing may never have been run. I don't see anything in here to indicate that it's been run at all. So, we scored pretty good. And look at this underframe. Shows no sign of wear of any kind. The shell is just dusty and the handrails are just rusty. So now, if we want to take out these side frames, which we do for painting purposes, and if they don't just come out easy, we'll use an ear nail on the backside because they don't want to break off one of these posts that holds them in there. Okay, we'll get to those guys in a second. Let's go ahead and take that guy off. Let's get this guy from underneath. Yep. Get those tweezers. Remember the rule. Get good tweezers. learn how to use them. That's a rule. Just like that. Let's check these wheel sets again. I don't know. I mean, I see what appears to be a little wear on them, but at the same time, it possibly could have sat on track because it is dusty, so it wasn't in the box. It may have just sat on some track. There's not any oil or grease in here, and actually, I like that. That's a big score. Okay, go too slow. Close. Let's go. I'm gonna go with this really small guy here. See if we can carefully push. Okay. Put some pressure on one side by pinching right in the middle. Now let's see if we can push. Nope. Nope. Let's push from the side. Well, it isn't going to hurt nothing if we clean them like this, and after that it'll be heated up. I should be able to push them out. I don't want to break off the pins, which is something that is a frequent occurrence and stuff like this. So we'll clean them like this first. Once they're warmed up, I think I can just gently slide them out of there. Okay, disassembled. Ready. This guy's going in the alcohol bath to start with. I'm going to pull these handrails and put them in some evapor rust. We'll get them straightened out. And then we'll be ready to get down to business. This is how you get rid of rust on things. This is evapor rust. And I've got a little tray here. I poured some in there, just enough to cover it. And these handrails are going to be rust-free. Yeah, probably a couple hours. And this is good stuff. If you don't have this in your workshop, something that you might want to pick up. I got it at the farm store. What's good about this is, so you can keep using it until it turns to, turn to this black sludge if you just leave it. But when you're done with it, this stuff, you can dump this on your lawn or in your garden, because what's left over is iron. That's what this does. Is it takes the iron oxide and it turns it into liquid iron, and that's good for your garden, good for your lawn, and it's great stuff. And I've used it on tools, especially old drill bits and things, and it will get rid of all the rust. And I love it. And I've used it on all kinds of stuff that's rusty. And so this is going to be great. It's going to make these handrails, basically they'll be almost like new. Sometimes it'll leave behind a darkened spot, but that spot is then protected also. So that's good stuff. Alright, it is time to make the modification to make the 15-inch radius. But first, I want you to see what we got going on right here. That is Jack Stand, Machinist Jack. Thanks to a good friend of mine, hooked me up with these, and I built a little platform. I had to mill a little piece of wood to fit inside the lip around the vise. I can set the stand on there. Now, don't have to worry about downward pressure. So that's pretty good. So let's get back in position here. Now, what we got to do is we got to make some room in there because these trucks don't move back and forth very good. So, let's put some a bit of oil on there. All right. And let's go ahead and hit it. Bring it down. Lock it in. Okay. Oops. Alright. First you need to smooth out the inside of the little plastic here. This is going to let us make the 15-inch radius. We won't be able to pull cars around it, but we will be able to make it. You don't need to do a lot here, just a little. Okay, that's the first one. There's our first one. Looks good. Now we're going to move over here. We're going to make a second one. Let's get a little more. Okay. This is the more critical one. go up in here, start working my way up into this corner. These trucks in here were really tight. And when you get this back on the bench, we'll talk a little bit about some things that I found while cleaning the truck. Okay, you get the idea, and I'll do the rest of these, then we'll put it back on the bench. And okay, it took a while, a couple hours, got the paint stripped. Shell, I put it in the 91% alcohol for about 15 minutes, and most of it washed off. Then I threw it in the ultrasonic, turned out no problem. Nice and clean. All the parts, totally clean. Everything good to go. Put the trucks in there in the alcohol for just a little bit. I probably left them in there like 20 minutes, and they did not come clean. And so I threw them in the ultrasonic for 20 minutes, and they're perfect. Here's something odd though that I've not seen before, is the different colored side frames. So, and they're not aftermarket. They're just white. But yep, they are the right ones. And so I'm thinking that there's other things too. I think because it has the hex drive in it, and compared to my other tunnel motors, those don't have that. This must have been a late edition of this unit. So then I went after the frame, and let me tell you something. So first thing I noticed is the paint on the frame was thick. It was gray. It was really thick, very thick. I did a little scratch test to find out, and it was really, really thick. Not only that, that paint was like equipment safety paint, which is kind of rubbery and quite thick. And so I put the heavy duty stripper on it first, and that didn't hardly do anything. So I washed it off, and I put Easy Strip, which is it's like a citrus stripper. That sort of let me scrape off a layer, but there were still several layers to go. And then I put on some citrus strip, and at least that bubbled it up a little bit. I mean, I couldn't brush it off, and I could hardly scrape it off. So then I threw it in the ultrasonic for about half hour, and then it was good. So then I'm looking at this casting. This is the highest quality casting that I have ever seen on an Athearn Blue Box. I mean, there is like next to nothing except just a little bit on the fuel tank here of that like deformation from the mold. And no, it's not an aftermarket frame, because all of the mold lines were in the right place. I polished them off. But it is incredibly well done for a blue box frame. This is a really nice frame. It's super smooth. When the paint came off, it was mostly polished. I've done just a tiny bit of spot polishing here and there, but it's really nice. Okay, so then I made the modification, 15-inch radius. Now, as nice as this frame is, I now understand why, if I remember right, this was $10 at the train show. And so I got these dummy trucks here that I keep on the workbench for testing coupler height. I already checked, and these coupler pads are the correct height. Even though they came with, this is another reason that's a late edition. These are I think these are McHenry's. They were on there with the usual clip. But, amazingly, I did not have to mill any of the end pads here, because sitting on the trucks, it matches up to the height gauge. So that's pretty great, actually. But now I know why it was $10. So here's the problem. So I put the dummy trucks on. Well, I had the regular trucks on first, and I noticed they were really tight. Really tight. And they still are. I have polished the inside now. And when you set, facing the right way, no, wrong track. Okay, so when you set this down, there's a socket under here that this circular part fits into. And you set it down on there, and it fits in very tight. And that's so that the plate right here touches the frame right there. That's how it picks up power. And we saw that this thing had a clip in it. And there is no solder marks on these arms. In fact, there's very little rust on them. So it's mostly untouched. But trucks do not turn freely at all. So to test this on the 15-inch radius, I had to hold it down. And even then, I was going off the track, and not because it couldn't make the radius, because now it can. I was able to finally determine that it could make the radius, but the trucks do not turn freely at all. I had no doubt that if this was run at all, then it was such a headache. That's why I ended up at the train show for $10. Now, as you saw when I opened up these trucks, there is no grease in here. Now, these have already been cleaned, but they didn't need any cleaning, which is how I wanted to get the paint off. The gears are completely untouched. I didn't even have to clean them. Totally dry. Everything good to go. But we got to do something about that. I've already polished this socket, and I'm still, this, not only does it not turn side to side freely, it doesn't pivot very freely either. So I have no doubt that if this was run at all, then it derailed all the time. Derailed on every switch, derailed on any curve, because simply the frame just holds the truck too tight. If it was going around a curve, it'll just come right off. So we're going to have to do something about that. I don't want to really grind that out that much. I will for sure coat that with graphite and polish it. But I don't think that's going to be quite enough, because it's just so tight. If I graphite coat this and polish it, it's still going to be, the trucks are going to wear it down to metal. And it's just not going to move. So we'll figure out something for that. But otherwise, we are ready to proceed. I'm going to figure out the socket here. Let me get that loosened up. Then I'm going to primer it. So I'm going to do, what my thought is, to match the other Giant, it's camouflage brown. Trucks and fuel tank. That's just the colors of those. And the underside will also probably be that same color. But for the top, I'm probably going to make it black. And maybe even, I don't know if I'm going to gloss that black or not, or if I'm going to use glossy black or something. I'll figure that out, and then I'm going to paint this inside here, even though I don't need to. I have to think about that. Okay, I've chosen the motor for this. It's going to be the FF180PH, which is this is a 3-pole, 24-bolt, super powerful motor with a precious metal brush. So it's it fits right in there. I don't even have to mill that out. It'll fit right in there. But I'm going to have to shim it, get it the right height. I am not going to be reusing the hex shaft because that is integrated into the flywheels. And the flywheels are a different shaft size. And since I'm putting a decoder in this, I don't really want that because it'll interfere with digital momentum. I'm probably, right now I'm leaning towards, we're going to do a silicone hose of that good stuff that we've used before. I think that'll be just perfect. And I'm going to get rid of this capacitor here. There's no need for that at all. That's where we're at. Let's keep going. All right, to fix this problem of the socket being too small, what I did was I loaded this big tool into the mill, and I'm not going to turn the power on. I'm just going to turn it by hand. This tool is big enough that it doesn't need power to cut this. And I'm just taking off like 1/1000th here, 1/1000th on the other side, maybe a couple thousand, just barely anything. And I already did one side and checked it, works perfect. That's it. We don't need to apply power all the time. And there it is. We got it. That's it. That's all we need. All right. Now we got sockets fixed. We can go ahead and start the painting. Okay, we are painting. We've made it. Primer's done. We're painting. We're going to paint our giant color, which is Athearn blue. Now I've got here 91% alcohol, distilled water, and the paint in the pot with a little pool noodle slice to keep it from spilling. So let's get my brush cleaned up just a little bit. Oh, I have a bigger brush for this one too. But okay, when you're using this stuff, now I put one coat on here. This paint kind of coats like a varnish at first. So you got to get a coat on there. Don't worry about, with this paint, we don't worry about brush strokes. Okay, we just leave them alone. Because this paint has special effect in it, which, as you've seen on Giant 1801, it's got a cool effect. Now that I've got one coat on here, I can start adding to it. And I'm just going to go ahead and you want to go fast, because when this paint starts to dry, and dries very rapidly, when it starts to dry, it'll get sticky. And when it gets sticky, that means you'll start getting globs and things. You don't want that. You want to get your brush back in the water and it'll loosen it up again. Okay, so that's coat 2. Now I'm starting to get kind of a cool effect. Okay, so when I dip in a pot like this, and then I take it and I wipe it here, and a drop will collect there, and from that little holder there, I can paint from that. That's why I love these paints. You know what? There are few things that are actually as satisfying to do as painting by hand. Now, don't get me wrong, I like airbrushing. And I got a nice airbrushing setup. But I'm just having more fun using these new paints by Brush. Okay, so then I've already hit the cab once. I'm leaving up here. I'm going to paint that part black, and then I'm going to paint it silver, as I do on pretty much every locomotive. That's kind of one of my trademarks, is I put that silver roof on there. This paint will pool around raised details, and that is what you want to have happen. That is how it gets its name, contrast paint. Each time I paint a coat on here, it's going to get darker. So I can make this thing as dark blue as I want to. But I want to retain this light, kind of, should have a little bit of a bleached look to it. And that's where we're starting to get pretty good. And then I'll just set it aside. In a few minutes, I can come back to it. So when I did the paint 3 locomotives at one time, that is actually how you can time things. So if I have 3 locomotive shells here, I paint the end on each one of them. When I get done with the third one, I can go back to the first and do another part, and the end that I painted right away is already dry. This stuff sets up quick. Oops, and that was not good. These little buggers. Okay, we're gonna leave him alone. Yeah, all right. Oh, okay. Okay then. We're gonna leave him alone. We'll put him on the shell later. Paint him that way. All right, now I'm gonna clean out this brush a little bit. Let's switch to a big brush. I'll show you that a little bit. Then I'll finish it up and we'll move on. I'm gonna assemble them trucks. I'll tell you what, the wheels, I have not seen Athearn wheels like this before, and I don't think they are aftermarket wheels. They had some oxidation on them that was really hard to, I had a tough time. And they're not plated. So, and they are definitely not full on, they're not steel like the old school ones, because they get hot when I'm polishing them. All right, now we're going to take the big brush here. We're going to take the big brush, we're going to do some big strokes, just a few, then I'll finish it up. How about we start, I kind of like to go top down, so let's start with the end. And I'm only going to be able to get a very light coat on here, because I need this to set up. I need to get one very light coat to set up so I can paint over it. Just like that. I'm going to paint over that. And I don't want to leave a big pool of paint anywhere either, because it will turn into a glob. Okay. I think I'm going to leave, I'm not sure if I'm going to leave these grills. Well, so here's my thought on the grills. I want them to stand out, but I don't want them to be totally blackened in. That's just not right. So I think we're just going to put a coat over them. And maybe one coat is all it'll take, and then I will panel line in the louvers. Now if I keep my brush fairly wet, we'll be able to do this. Can you believe that? How many people have told you you're not allowed to do this? You can't do that. You can't paint. You can't paint that by brush. You have to airbrush it. You have to airbrush it. And you have to use lacquer. That was then. This is now. This contrast paint we're working with is much, much finer than the finest lacquer. It has micro pigment in it. And so do the new Army Painter, Mr. Color, Vallejo. Their latest paints are using micropigment, which is much finer than anything we've used in the past. I don't want too much paint on this grill because I'm going to do something to it. And there will be, and it'll get panel line. I want the grill to stand out, but I don't want it to look like I just coated it in black paint. I took a lot of photos of a lot of grills, and you can almost always see color. Even these right here, you can see color on these. So when I do panel line them, it's going to be, I'm probably going to go with brown. A dark brown. And that way, you'll still see the blue, and then it'll still look like it's in operation. The brown will give it some depth. And one of the things I do like about this paint is you don't get to see right off the bat what it's really going to look like. You have to put on a coat first, then you got to come back with another coat. And its ultimate final look, you're going to put on coats, and you're going to, at some point you're going to say that's the look. And then you're going to keep it. If not, you're going to keep putting coats on. The stuff is so fine, you can keep coating it. But I just need something so that it can, I got to have something to stick to. And that's what we're going to get right here. All right, I will keep working on this, and then we will come back in a little bit, and you'll see it after I've done probably 2 coats. Okay, it's time to do some wheel sets. So instead of graphite coating the wheels on a locomotive, I'm going to use some texture. This Sterland Battlemeyer texture. It's kind of a brown paste, and it's very good for wheel sets. If I use the graphite, one of the things, you know, when I coat the wheels with Oxguard to prevent them from oxidizing in the future, Oxguard and graphite do not go well together. The Oxguard turns it into kind of a sludge. So I like to put this stuff on here. It'll give me that look. It'll dry up, and it will, if I want to take some of the texture off, I can just wipe it off. And this, there's so much oxidation on these wheels, and like I said, these are the hardest wheels I've ever come across to polish. The oxidation on them was very tough, and the wheels get hot when polishing, which I've never had that happen before. But they're good to go now, and now they are all textured. So they're going to look really nice. Okay. Nice thing about this is if you spill it, it don't come out. So that's why it doesn't need a pool noodle. Now, let's clean this brush up. And try not to get our water or alcohol too dirty. This stuff is good because it'll wash out with soap and water. So I kind of like that. Now what I want to do, so color is starting to show up. I'm on like 3 coats. I think one more will do the trick. But while I'm at this stage, I'm going to pull out here my sandwich box. Okay, it's just a Tupperware sandwich box. Inside here, I have paper towels. There's 4 paper towels in here, and there's some water. They're wet, but they're not dripping wet. On top here is what's called baking parchment. Basically what I do is I lay it on the parchment, and I trace around with a marker, then I cut it out and keep trimming it until I can get it in here nice and flat. Okay, now this parchment, when I put that cover on, it'll stay moist. So if I put paint on here, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to paint the inside of this cab this color, because this is the color that is kind of like the inside of machinery, especially in the military. This is a color that you will see on the inside of lots of vehicles. So, and this, I just got this at, I don't remember where I got this. Either Michael's or Walmart. It's like $1.50 because it's a premium acrylic. It's really cheap and lasts a long time. So I'm going to put a little blob on here. That ought to do it. And then I'm going to pick a brush. Let's see here. We need a flat brush. We need a decent flat brush. Should be kind of small. Aha! Let's go with this gold Taklon one. We'll see how this does. Okay. So, now what I can do is I can wet my brush. All right. And I can pull back on this paint. And pull it out. It's like a palette. It is a palette. It's called a wet palette. I just happen to make my own. You don't have to buy them. Sandwich box works great. Okay, now that I got the color, I want to do the inside of this cab. And it'll take a couple of coats. But as we saw in those SD40s, where we did this on the inside of those cabs and then put that yellow cab light in there, it was super cool. That effect is exactly what we're going for. Okay, so we're getting it in there. And then I'm going to do trim. I'd say the windows and everything will be black trim, like rubber gasket. Sometimes I do chrome, but... So I looked up a bunch of my pictures, and it seems like older locomotives are more likely to have chrome than rubber gaskets. But since this is a rebuild, we're going to make them all rubber gaskets. And see, that's going on nice and smooth because I'm pulling it from this wet palette, not just pulling from a glob. So I'm kind of flattening it out. And I'm going to put a yellow light in here. And it's going to be fantastic. Speaking of lights, so we are putting in a Digitrax DH126 decoder in this. It's probably the most basic decoder out there. Probably the cheapest decoder. It only has 2 light functions. One of those functions for sure we are going to be using for our beacon, because right now that is the way I can designate which locomotives have DCC and which don't. All the ones that have a decoder in them have a beacon. So we want one for the beacon. And then we have one left over to do another lighting effect. And that lighting effect, I might make that headlights. And I'll just put both front and rear on the same one. I can make it directional. That's probably what we'll do that. But what about the other lights that we want to have? Like, what about if I want to have some kind of truck lights, or do I want to have the interior cab light? Well, as we showed with the crane, there's another way to do that. We can put all the lights that are going to always be on. Remember in the doodle bug? We put those lights in the passenger compartment. They're just always on. They're not connected to the decoder. They are connected to a bridge rectifier. So if there's lights, like let's say we put truck lights in here, is there any reason not to have them just always on? Probably not, since on all the tracks I have, spots where locomotives are parked have on-off switches. So if we don't want to see the lights on, we just hit the switch and the power's off. This is not having a sound decoder in it. So we could make a bunch of light effects and they will always be on. I think that is what we're going to do. Mainly we're going to do that just to see how we like it. Maybe it turns out that we don't like it and don't want that. Well, I got tons of bridge rectifiers, so that it's not out anything. All right, so it's getting nice, and it's got that kind of government type interior, military type interior. Yeah, I've got some pictures of the inside of cabs. Sometimes they're like green and gray like this. Sometimes they're mostly green like this. And what color was that anyways? This was minted aqua. But I got tons of other colors that are like this. Just go pick one off the shelf that you think matches close enough. All right, there we go. We got it. That's good to go. Now, this paint can stay here, and I can use it again and again and again until it's gone, or I can add more to it. All right, let's get back to, let's do another coat then. Okay, I think I've pretty much achieved the look I'm going for. This is pretty close, and you look close, so you see some shadows and stuff. That's part of the contrast paint. That's going to change a little bit when I coat this for decals. It's going to look just a little bit different, but overall, this is the look we're going for. It took like 4 coats, and now I'll do a few more touch-ups, and then we're ready to gloss it. So, while we're doing that and letting the stuff dry, we're also going to see it in our truck setup. So now what I need to do is make a solder pad. Here is the frame. Right now I painted it Rust-Oleum camouflage brown, then I satin finished it. Just kind of seal it in. There's probably going to be some milling, and then I'll have to paint it again. And then later we will matte finish this, and it'll look really nice. But what we got to do, so a truck fits in here like this. All right, so we got good room to put our, well, actually that one's going to go over that. This is the front one. Let's find the back one here. Okay, so remember, frame pointing to the right. Here's where the cab goes. Okay, pointing to the right. Red wires come from side closest to me. Black wires come from the side farthest away from me. The flat ones are the black wire. So they fit in here like this, and we got lots of room right there. Plus we milled a little bit. We'll put the black wire right there. So we need to make a solder pad. And the way we did it, as usual, we used acid paste on a little screwdriver. Put a dot on there, put some solder on, then we took acetone, put it in a little beaker like this, and used a paintbrush, and then we brushed it to eliminate all the acid. Now it's clean. We won't have to worry about the corrosion. And when we're done, we got our wires on, we will ox guard this so that it will not rust or oxidize. And I think we'll go ahead and do, I'm not really sure what we're going to do here yet. Now, when you set these up, it is important to take your wire wheel and clean these sockets out. Very important. And those get ox guard. So what we'll probably do is we'll paint on here an acrylic paint. I put a little bit of pavement color on the wet palette. I'll paint that on once I got everything set here. We're not going to get fancy on our wiring on this one too much. We're going to just go to the top of the arm on the red wires. And then again, clean out all the sockets. Use the acetone to get rid of the acid. And now, when we put the wires on, we will use rosin paste. Rosin paste flux. And that we don't have to worry about corroding, but the acetone cleans it off nicely. So it looks nice and clean. And we'll do that. Then in a while, we're going to take some graphite and we're going to do these side frames. They are Rust-Oleum camouflage brown right now. I'm going to dry brush graphite on here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that right now. How about it? All right, so let's take, we got some graphite in the cup. All right, so here's what it looks like. Let's take this is a makeup brush from the dollar store. Graphite, same old stuff. Fine with derby type. Take it in the cup here, and we're just going to brush them on. And we'll just brush it on all over. Okay, now, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Let's zoom in a little bit. If we can. Let's zoom in a little bit. Come on now, how do we do this? There. Good, let's get a look at that cup. Okay, so we're taking the graphite. All right. And we are brushing it on the top, all over. Just get it on there. Okay, now we got some on there. Let's go ahead and start brushing. Okay, do you see the effect we're getting? Do you see the line of what looks like steel? Starting to look good. It's bringing out the little details that are in here. It's giving us an edge. It's giving us a steel edge, which I personally really like. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Okay, let's compare two. Well, I didn't do this in. I'll take one that we haven't done, and we'll compare them side by side. That's not too bad. And we can use a smaller brush. Take this little brush here, and let's try working the cap here. Let's work some parts. The smaller brush really starts to bring out the effect. This is supposed to look heavy metal. And that is what's happening. Okay, now let's compare it to. So let's zoom out. I can zoom out. No, zoom in. Zoom out a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take. Here is one that is not done. Here's the one that is. Okay, do you see the difference? I can get this guy to sit. Okay, how about now? I like it. That's a good effect. Very good effect. So we're going to call that one. That's good. So, okay. So now I will add some wires, and then we will start getting ready to find out where we're going to mount the motor. This is an important part. We cleaned the sockets where the trucks fit, and then we take our ox guard, and when you go to the store looking for this, I have now found it at Lowe's and Ace. I have not looked for it at the other places, but I'm pretty sure they have it. But each time when I've asked for it, they didn't know what I was talking about. But they did have it. Okay, and this tube here, the big one, will last you forever. The two little tubes I have, I haven't even used them up, and I have coated all the track on my layout, all those hundreds and hundreds of wheels, and all kinds of stuff, and it lasts a long time. So what we do is we're going to paint the ox guard on the inside of these sockets, because they don't want these oxidizing, because that's where the power goes. Okay. All right. There. I've done all these. I also did the wheels. I did all the wheels where you go around like this, hit the backside, and get some on the phosphor bronze nut. Doesn't really need it, but the backside of these wheels oxidizes a lot. Now remember, ox guard will be greasy for weeks. Then it will turn to a solid film. And when it turns to solid film, you're good for years. Workbench track, the oldest track that I have, I finally got too much stuff from just working on it that I did have to clean it again. But this track here, be like 7 years. I did not need to clean it at all. And it's mostly, some of this is brass. This is brass back here, and they're coated with ox guard. Still, totally work. Okay. Now, I also soldered on the wires. So what we need to do is we need to bring out our acetone. Don't have to do this, but I like it to be nice and clean. And the reason you don't have to do it is because we use rosin for the wires. You tin the spot with the acid, put the solder on there, and then clean it off with the acetone. Then you can touch and go with your wire and some rosin flux. I also tin the ends of the wires before I attach them. And that makes things so easy. So then I'm going to clean off the rosin flux. Okay, and I'm going to coat this with ox guard. Because this pad, I don't want it to... This one actually had some rust on it. A little bit of flash rust. We don't want that. So we're going to clean off the rosin paste. And we have nice, clean wiring. When your wiring is nice and clean, it makes you feel good. We love clean wiring. Very good. You see that acetone just takes right off. No more rosin. Okay, now, got that on there. Let's go back to, let's get off the ox guard again. So now I'm going to, on things I'm not going to paint, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get some ox guard on here. That way it won't rust. Okay, I don't need a whole lot. Just wipe it on. Good to go. This pad, top side, let's get underneath. Okay, that one's good. Let's get this one. Very good. Oh, I see a little bit. I see a drip of rosin, so let's get that out there. Very good. Then go ahead and we can just seal them up. There. Everybody's protected. Now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to paint these sides with, I'm just going to, like we did with the inside of the cab, I got a pavement color. It'll be fine, and I'll use that on there. Then we're going to put these trucks together. Okay, it is time to assemble the trucks. And we're going to do it in our usual way. We're going to go through it again. I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to grab all the gears here. Okay, so what you do is you take all the gears that are clean. Okay, so you take them all, then you mix them up. Okay, you stir them up like that. Okay. There we go. We got them all mixed up. A very important step. You got to mix them all up. All right, now how do we know which gears go where? So what we do is this. It's two sides, two teams. One team gets that guy. There's another one like that. He gets that guy. Okay, you get one. You get one. These are all the same. So you get one. 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 There. Oh my goodness. There it is. Okay, that's how you do it. All right then. Now, how do they go in here? Well, I'll tell you. And right there is our gear, our idler that goes with the worm gear. All right, but we don't just put them in there, because what we do is we take our special stuff, Mag 1 high temp disc brake wheel bearing grease, high temperature protection, water resistant, red lithium. This is the only thing I use. So I got this on sale for $2.19, like 30 some years ago. Something like that. Anyways, but I also have a brand new one which costs $10. You get it at the auto parts store. Look at this. That is like 30 years of how much I've used this whole thing. I got the brand new one to do other stuff. I got it in my garage, and I like to use this wherever I need parts to stay lubricated, and I don't want oil and grease spreading everywhere. As you know, I do not use oil ever on gears, on phosphor bronze bearings and thrust washers. Marvel lubricating oil. These cans are collectible. You can't get them anymore. This is also, you find it in the store, called Air Tool Oil. Don't get the small can. It's really expensive. A quart is like 10 bucks. Get that. For trains, that will last you forever. Then get yourself a little oiler. I like these cans. I think they're kind of cool, so I keep this one can. Don't just go buy this can because they're really expensive. You can get yourself a little oiler. Okay, that is for our bearings, motor bearings, and we'll use this later. Right now, we're going to do this. So I'm going to take my little screwdriver, and I'm going to get some Mag 1 on the end. Then I'm going to go in this gear. I'm going to go like that, okay? Twist around, okay. Let's do them all. Okay. All right. Okay then. That's one side. Do it again. All right. Okay. All right. Okay then. All right. Alrighty then. That's all of them. All right, now we got them guys so that when they fit on here, they're greased. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to look at the gear on both sides. These gears right here, for some weird reason, don't have a registration mark. If it does, a mark of any kind that's not on the other side, I always put that side facing up. You know, it's useful for counting teeth, especially if you're looking through the grab bag of gears to try to replace this. Okay, so let's go ahead and put them all in. Now, there's only one other way they can all go, so let's just put them. These gears are the same on both sides, so let's put them in there. All right, just like that, and boom, there it is. Okay, now let us take a little bit of Mag 1. Maybe a little more than that. Okay, a little bit of Mag 1. Let's go ahead and put it. We'll just wipe it. Yeah, scoop it. And I put it on in various places. I don't need a lot of this. That's probably enough. Okay, and we'll just go ahead. You see the little, you see those little, like, they look like little hairs? That's the grease getting into its spot. The cool thing about Mag 1, it's not spread. So get into its spot. If there's too much in excess, it'll collect in one place and you can wipe it out and you'll be good to go. Also, it never hardens. It never turns to amber, ever. And I tested that with 70 locomotives in my storage garage for over 10 years, subjected to the worst kind of heat, and more importantly, subjected to horrifying cold temperatures. When I took them out again, they all work. And everyone that had Mag 1 in it was good to go. This is the good stuff. Now let's do the other one. Okay, so we've got just like that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good to go. Let's take our Mag 1. I do not recommend and do not use any more Teflon, like Break Free. Break Free is great stuff if you are, cleaning rifles or something. It's not good on your locomotive because Break Free also has detergent in it. Yeah, it's great for you. It's like, detergent repels things. But detergent and lubricant together, it will spread everywhere. So all them other greases that are Teflon, I say they're no-go. Also silicone. I don't really like silicone because for some reason when it breaks down, it squeals. And I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like stuff that breaks down. This stuff has never broken down. Now the brand new Mag 1 is not as red as this. It is a darker brown color when it's brand new. But it's cheap. You get it at the auto parts store. And it is good stuff. And that's all you need in there. You shouldn't have a bunch spreading everywhere. Also, when you put this on the track, it is not going to be free rolling. Some people, like Ben, you know who you are, love their trucks to be free rolling, and they like to use light oil, make them super free rolling, except that collects a lot of dust. All right. Especially if you're on a dusty layout. Right, Ben? You know who you are. Okay. Dusty layout. Trains that run all the time. We will solve that problem one of these days. All right. Now, go ahead. Put them on. Next, I'm going to take the small clips and I'm going to clip them. Let's make sure I get him. He is not clipped. Oops. Let's get tweezers out. That means I'm not lined up. Okay, let's get these guys lined up. Yeah, so I just did a little coating of some craft paint. And that does not really matter too much. It doesn't serve any purpose other than cosmetic. So I'm not really too concerned about it since it's hard to see anyways. Okay, clip on. Clip on. Right? No, that does not look. Why does that not look quite right? It's right. Okay, I guess that's right. That's it. Now I'm going to take, remember I have ox guarded each of the sockets, and I have ox guarded the back side of the wheels, including the nuts, and I have already used my gauge. This is the Mark IV. I also have a Mark V. They're in gauge. That is really super important. Now I'm going to drop them in. Okay, where's my little screwdriver? We'll get them seated. There, that's one. Oh, no, okay. Let's do that again. Okay, let's seat them. All right, you, that's one. Now, let's get this guy. Come on now. They always want to go in at an angle. So we have to very carefully kind of coax them in place. Now, if this truck turns out to have a problem derailing because of the 3 points of contact, what we do, we take this middle one, we take our cutoff wheel and we lower the middle socket down just a tiny bit. That will stop the 3-point derailing thing. And I'm not going to do that until I've run it. If it turns out that it's a problem, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower that middle opening. That way there's only 2 strong points of contact and this wheel set still is driven. But when you get to a spot that's uneven, it'll kind of float. All right, now I want to wipe a little bit right there. Tiny bit right there. Tiny bit right there. And the other cool thing about Mag 1 is as it warms up, so when it's cold, it's just a little on the stiff side. You start running it, it gets better and better as you're running it. So if you're using an op session, it starts getting, I mean, you really start feeling the locomotive actually being warmed up. Now we're going to put the bottom cover on. Let's hope that this is not directional. As long as it's not. Oh my, there it is. Okay. There he is. Now let's go over here to the track. Let's see how he does. Okay, I like what I'm seeing with the play in the axles. So let's zoom in for you. Watch when I tilt it to the side. See that? That is what we want to see. That right there is a good sign. It means this truck is going to be reliable. And then we're going to run him back and forth a little bit. All right. It's greased up. Let's go ahead and put side frames on them. Let's find the right ones. Let's zoom back out. Okay, let's find the right side frames. Okay, so now, facing me is the arm. This hook goes towards fuel tank. So let's go ahead and put this guy on here. And he's been painted. How about before we do that? How about before we do that at all, let's give him a little spot of some graphite so that he doesn't get stuck in there. Like before we cleaned it, we couldn't easily pull him out. So we're going to go ahead and just graphite that a little bit. Uses for this graphite are turning out to be pretty great. And I think I already told you that graphite that I use to spray on stuff, that is just a huge time saver. That I now spray all my couplers, all my freight car wheel sets completely. That is a Zepp product, and it's great stuff. I will figure out some way for you guys to find it. I don't know how you find it right now because I have a friend who works for Zepp, and he gave it to me to try, and I think it is the greatest stuff. It's awesome. I'll find out for him. Maybe we'll do just a video just on doing couplers and wheel sets. I've been using it for, I think, 2 months now. And it's just fantastic. I used to have a spray can of some stuff called slip plate. And slip plate is graphite lubricant that is also conductive. This ZEP stuff is not a conductive graphite. So there are uses for having a conductive one. Not that you want a current flow through it, but it can be used to prevent oxidation and keep something conductive. There we go. We have a truck. Beauty. Okay, I'll do the other one. And then we're going to start getting down to more business. Whoops. Okay, there we go. All right, then. Okay, it's time. Let's build some worm gears. So, got my 2 worm gears here. I salvaged from somewhere, and I put them in the ultrasonic and cleaned them up, and they're awesome. We need, each worm gear gets 2 thrust washers. They get 2 phosphor bronze nuts. Okay, none of this is conductive. So what we need to do is take our Marvel lubricating oil, which happens to be air tool oil. All right, and there's plenty of spilt on the top here. Take my little screwdriver and put a dot on the end of my screwdriver. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and dot that end. And we'll dot this end. Just like that, dot. Dots is what we're doing. I'm going to take a thrust washer. All right, I'm going to put it on. If I can get it on without, oh boy. Let's try it this way. Try it again. Okay, that, oh, all right, okay. Okay, listen. On you go. Get on there. Nope, damn. All right, try with my fingers. All right, then. Okay, you. Oh boy, you better be the right size. Uh-oh. Okay, we may have a problem. These may not be the correct worm gears. Let's salvage another pair. Let's try that again. Okay, so now I have used my screwdriver and the air tool oil. I put it on the shafts. Okay, now I had to check because that weirdly that shaft was not the right size, even though it was in my collection of worm gears. Let's do this with our fingers because that, as we saw earlier, the tweezers was not cooperating. Does it work? Oh, no. What? Yes or no? Maybe. Does it actually work? Come on now. You are the right one. I know you are. So get on there. That is going to be an unacceptable one. Let's try a different one. Nope, fingers. Oh, there we go. Now I got 2. And now I'm going to add the phosphor bronze nut. Okay. And I've got the oil on there. So it is nice and smooth, right? What? How are you not nice and smooth? This guy is not smooth at all. We can't have that. Can't have that. That's just not, no. Nope. We need to do something about this. So let's zoom out. Let's fix this guy if we can. We're going to try the wire wheel. Let's see if we can fix that guy. I don't know if we can. We're going to try it. So I'm going to grab him. I'm going to grip him. What the... We're going to grip him like this. We're going to hit him with this wire wheel. Did we get a match? Sort of. Not that good, though. Boy, it's got to be. That is. Well, wait a minute. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. Maybe I'm using the wrong. I've got this. Oh, yeah. Oh, there we go. And it went on the floor. Naturally, it went on the floor. All right. So as you saw, now I'm going to use a laser pointer, and I'm going to find that nut that went on the floor. Unless he's right there. No, we're going to use the laser pointer. Point it across the floor. The laser will shine off any part on the floor, and I should be able to get it. But anyways, so we put the oil on each end of the shaft. Thrust washer first, nut second. Come back in a second here when I got it all squared away. Okay, worm gears are good. So what we got here is, here's our worm gear fully assembled. Now, thrust washer here and here. Phosphor bronze bearing there and there. Okay, so technically, not technically, look, in practice, having the thrust washer is important, but it will work without the thrust washer. If you find yourself in a situation where you don't have a thrust washer, it will still work. The air tool oil protects the shaft, and this worm will work. But I've got thrust washers, so I put them on. All right, now let's take a look here. So I am forward. Here's the cab part. Here's the worm gear. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop the worm in. All right, we're going to drop it in like that. Okay, then we're going to take the other one. And we're going to drop him in. Not going to really, well, we're going to put some Mag 1 on there. Even though we're not really ready. Right now, we are going to try the silicone hose first. Because I just don't feel like making drive shafts today. Plus, when I use silicone hose, it's silent. Totally silent. So, now, let's put the caps on. Okay. Truck's on, caps on. Looking good right now, I'd say. Here is our Super Power FF 180pH. Now here's the thing. This is a size 1, length 8, 3-pole, 24-volt motor, although it will go up to 32 volts. This is not your old AHM motor that was a 3-pole back when. This is a modern motor. This is Mabuchi. Let's go ahead and test it. You think? Should we test this guy? Yeah, we should. Okay, let's test it. Okay, so let's move over. All right, now I'm going to point you to the tester. Let's turn him on. That is my Locomotive Tester, and I'm going to go ahead on and take my leads here that I've got. Oh, the soldering iron is on right now. I think we can turn them off for a little while. All right, so as you can see right here, 2.52 volts. Okay, 2.52 volts. Let's see what happens. We're going to connect the black wire. Let's get him in his little thing here. Okay. We're going to connect the red wire, the hot. All right. It's spinning. Do you hear anything other than the fan in the background? I don't either. We are drawing 0.03 amps at 2.52 volts. Now let's see what happens if I try to stall it. I am not stalling it. Oh, and it's burning the end of my finger. It is still going. Oh, okay. It's burning the end of my finger at 2 volts. 2.5 volts. It's 0.2 amps. Way under the limit. Let's turn them up. Let's turn them up higher. Is that 8 volts? I am trying, but I am not stalling it. And he's going 0.3 volts, and that is not stalling. Ow! I am pinching it. I can't pinch it. Okay, it gets hot, and it burnt my fingers. Okay, now let's turn them up. Let's turn them up higher. We turn up to 8 volts. I don't really want to grab onto this right now, but just for you. Oh, man. Okay, what do we make it to? Okay, this is... So my layout is currently set. Maximum voltage, I believe, is 19. Oh, yeah. That is hot, and I can't stall it. So a maximum voltage, we're drawing 0.05 amps. And, okay, so now here's the other trick. We got a new motor, right? Right here. So, I want to take, let me show you something new. Let's drop them to 15. No, let's actually drop them down to about 9. Okay. Here he is at about 9. I'm going to take some of this air-to oil, put on my screwdriver, and drop it in at the shaft right there. That is what you do to lubricate the bearings. Okay, now I got to do it on the back. It's kind of tricky. Hold them upside down to not short them. I'm going to drop some on this shaft. It'll work its way down in there. And I'm stalling. I'm not actually stalling it because it's burning my dang fingers. Okay, 9 volts. Oh, man. Okay, so we are not going to stall this motor. Now, silicone hose is a different matter. When we use 3D printed drive shafts and U-joints, this motor will melt those before it ever stalls, even at the lowest voltage. Plus, it'll never reach 1 amp. That's why we like these. They're really hard to get right now. I think that's going to change pretty soon. This is an awesome motor. This has tons and tons of horsepower. Okay, so that's going to be our guy. All right, we've tested him, and we know it's good to go in DCC. Now let's go back over here. We're going to fit this guy. So I think this is facing forward. I think we're going to face the power to the rear. We're going to put him here. Strangely, it almost fits. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to mill a little bit. I don't think it's going to... It's not perfect fit. We're gonna mill enough to make it a perfect fit. And we're going to level it so that the hose goes straight across. And straight across. Which might mean switching it around. Okay, why do I not want to use flywheels with this? The reason I don't want to use flywheels is because the DH126 decoder has digital momentum. And if we use flywheels, setting the digital momentum is not, it won't be accurate with flywheels on here. We don't need them. We're in DCC. We got a super high power motor. So we want to use digital momentum so that when you go to a stop, it just kind of cruises in there. Yeah. It's going to be sweet. It's looking really good right now. We don't have to do a lot of milling to do this. Then we're going to build a platform, sit over the top, and put our electronics on. Well, that's where we're going to put our decoder. And we got tons of room up above. We might add some weight to the shell just because we're going to have extra room. Okay, now we're going to see what happens. We're going to definitely break the rules on this one. This here is true color paint that you use, an airbrush. I got a ton of it because I like to airbrush, and I like to use true color airbrush paint. And today we're going to detail out this cab, and we're going to use the black True Color. Yes, with a paintbrush. I'm going to show you how to paint from the pot using True Color. So right here we have our beaker with acetone. True Color's thin with acetone. Your brushes are clean with acetone. And we don't keep acetone in a container. We keep it in a can and then pour it into the beaker when we use it. So, what we're going to do is we are going to put window gaskets. And to do that, all we got to do is paint the edge black. So, I've done all of them but one here. I'm going to show you how to do this. So, I got some acetone. Okay. Now, I'm going to get some paint on here. Now, True Color sets up extremely fast. So, to paint these gaskets, you need a small brush that is kind of flat, or a very small round brush. What you do is you come in at an angle so that the middle of your brush is just touching the edge, and you make your line. See that? A little line there. Okay, then you make the angle shallower. And don't do it with the tip of your brush. Get in there about at least 1/3 of the way into the brush. That way you won't be touching any other sides. We don't want to just come right down here and try to trace it. We'll just get globs everywhere. So first we come in maybe 45 degrees. Okay, then we lower it. And there we have it. Now if you're doing chrome, same thing applies. If you're doing silver, you come in, start about 45, about 1/3 of the way into the brush. And I need some more. Yeah, it's totally against the rules to paint True Color from the pot. As everyone who knows something, of course, will tell you, you can't do that. You can't paint True Color from the pot. Well, we're doing it. So someone must know something. We're going to prove it here. And what we're going to prove is that you can do it. It's just, the trick is the acetone part in the beaker. That's the secret that you just don't find anywhere. Okay, I'm getting a nice gasket going on here. And yeah, this stuff dries in seconds, not minutes. And it's a little bit on the thick side. So you want to kind of wipe off the tip of your brush. You don't have a ton on there. But you're not going to go very far before it starts setting up. Okay, now that I've got the gasket edge, I'm going to paint the inside. Very nice. Just touching here and there. Okay. I have my gasket. Now I got my gaskets. Also, the armrest. I'm going to show you something. There's an armrest on the side of an SD40. It's black. Now it's got a silver rim under it. we're going to come back and we're going to do a little silver work. We're not going to put that rim on, but we're not going to paint the underside of the armrest. We're just going to paint to the edge. There we go. So that is looking pretty good. Now, you remember when I painted the top of this black? Because I tell you, I like to paint this silver. To get a good silver color, you want that silver to be on top of a very dark color. A glossy black would be the best. That is when we use Mr. Metal. And that we do after we have finished it final. So the trick with Mr. Metal is it is a lacquer thinner. You need a container that you can put lacquer thinner in. I got these at Science Store, and they have a gasket inside of them. You can't put it in just a little tester's thing, and it will, because it doesn't seal good, it'll just basically evaporate. But I get regular hardware store lacquer thinner, and I put it in a little thing like this. If you don't have something to keep it in, you would use your beaker and just pour some into it. It was like, oh no, I've been using lacquer thinner in a tester's bottle for years. Nothing's ever happened. Other than, I don't know, for whatever reason, the lacquer thinner kept in a sealed container seems to be quite a bit stronger. It's fresher. So that's why I do that. Okay. Gasket's ready. All right, we're going to set up, we're going to do a little bit of silver work now. All right, let's do some silver. Okay, so I've got mineral spirits. I got some tester silver. Small detail brush. When you're working with metallics, make sure that you keep this bottle of mineral spirits I don't use for anything other than metallics, because the tiny bits of metallic like flakes or pigment, if you use a normal color of this, it'll pick up bits of silver from the mineral spirits, and that will get transferred to whatever you're painting with regular paint. So keep your mineral spirits for metallics just for that purpose. All right, so what we want to do is we want to do the trim around the window. We want to get those brackets. I don't know what the heck that thing is, but it gets a little silver top just because. And then I want to do the sunshade mounting strip. Okay, also the door handle and the door hinges. So let's start in the back here. Let's do this door. So now, this silver, I've got it thinned down, so it is very runny, and it will run away out of control unless you're super careful. Okay, so I'm going to get down here. I'm resting my hand on the side of my desk here, and I'm resting my elbow on the arm of my chair. This helps me stay steady. And I just want to touch the top and a little bit on this plate here. Door handle gets used a lot. Paint wears off. Okay, then I want to touch the hinge. Both hinges. And that's what we have. Okay, so let's go around to the window. First thing I want to do is I want to get the back side. Okay, let's, as the silver stiffens up, which it likes to do, you need to put some mineral spirits on your brush. I'm going to get the inside, just the back of this frame right here. And I'm just going to make one line. Just like that. Okay. That's all I need. All right. So then, let's come around to the window in the front here. And what we're going to do Okay. Now, we're going to start, we'll start this way from the side. And we're going to come in at a low angle. We're not going to go end to end. I'm going to go right in the middle part. Okay, just like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to push the paint up to the edge. So if the silver goes, it likes to flow, so it will go places you don't want it to. So I push to the edge. So push the paint. Okay, I'm going to push it down to the armrest. There we go. Then I didn't get any overflow where I didn't want it to be. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit of spirits here. Make sure we don't have too much on our brush. This is the tricky part, is getting the frame around the window with a paintbrush. Now you can do this. And I don't have steady hands at all. So I rest. Hand rest. I am going to do the thing where I put a beanbag under my hand sometime. I'm going to try that. Okay, now let's get the side of this frame. Just in the middle. And then I'm going to push it. Okay, I'm going to push again. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and do, we're going to come in. We're going to come in at a high angle because silver flows. And we're going to go inside about a third of the way in again, like we did with the black. And just wipe back and forth. And the silver is flowing all the way to the edge of the frame. And that's what we want. Okay, high angle, a third of the way into the brush on the flat. And then we got it. Now we can push. We can push. Go to this side. We can push and push. Okay. Now we want to get this rim here. And this is where things get tricky. That silver will flow up into the rim and it will not look like the rim. It'll fill that hole inside. We don't want that. We just want to get right on the edge of it. Very carefully draw along it. Just real careful. Okay, good enough. Let's go around the top here. Just come to the corner. Okay, gonna relax the hand. Take a deep breath. Let it out and paint. There we go. Almost there. Let's keep going. Oh, relax the hand again. Okay, one left. Notice I have not been putting more paint on. I'm just working with what's on the brush. There. Now we've got the inside of the frame, and if you can see, not very much. There's just one little spot there. We're just going to leave that. But otherwise, the frame is inside. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to come down flat. We're going to lay this flat onto the bracket for the sunshade. And we're just going to wipe. We don't want hardly any paint on our brush at this point, because we just want to wipe it just like that. And there it is. Nice. Okay. Still, don't need any extra paint. Let's just get these 3 little brackets. Okay, just that little tiny bit of detail really brings this cab to life. And it really brings it out nicely. Okay, now we are going to put silver on the... I like my headlight housing to be silver. So I'm going to get some more paint on here. Now that's way too much. So I'm going to roll it. So now I'm going to do the same thing, and we're going to come in, relax the hand, get it braced. I'm going to come in. I got this thing tilted back. I want to just barely touch the edge of this. I'm not going to try to go all the way down on it. I'm not going to try to get the side perfect, but I want to just barely touch that edge. That way I don't want it running off of its own bracket. I want it staying on the bracket. And that we're putting this coating of silver on here, even though we're going to gloss it, and it's going to, that silver is not going to be that good. But this coat is going to serve as kind of the under color for when we use the Mr. Metal when we're all done. Mr. Metal, when you paint it on and you let it set, you can polish it with the Q-tip. And then it looks so real. Getting close. Okay, let's get the inside here. We got it. Okay, why do the inside? Well, let's say I'm going to use a light in this. Okay, if it's an LED that goes all the way to the end, which I don't have enough for this project to do that, it doesn't matter that much. But if I'm going to put those lenses back in here and try to light them from behind, then this helps. It acts as a reflector. If I am going to do fiber optic and put that in here, then this also works like a little bit of a reflector. And there we go, we have it. And that right there is a beauty of a cab. I love it. Didn't that blue? You're starting to see the vision now of what makes this blue cool. And you can still see the white of the primer is still showing through because the paint is a bit transparent. But it's really starting to look like something. Over here, I've got the true color on here because I'm going to be making that silver. Let's just give the true color a check. Yeah, it's all set up. Let's see if we can go ahead and do this one. I like my exhaust housing to also be silver, as if it was replaced in the shop and they just didn't paint it. They just put it on the way it came. Okay, first, where the lift rings are here, I'm just going to, oops. Okay, I'm going to just touch them. Just touch the tops of them. Just that tiny bit of detail painting makes a big difference. Oh yeah, you can drill them out and you can put lift rings in them, and that's super cool and all, but this is we're not really going to add detail parts to this. Not every model needs them, and not everybody likes to buy them. Some people, they're not in the budget. I'm one of those people. It's not in the budget to do that, all that kind of stuff on every single build. So we want to just discover what details are already here. And if we can enhance them just a tiny bit, it makes all the difference in the world. Okay, let's come in at a low angle and hit the edge of this. Very good. Let's see if we can get this one. Just hitting the edge. We're not going into the edge. We're going to be just touching the edge. The silver, some of it is going to run down onto the edge, so it looks like it's not just painted on, but it's actually stuck on there. That's the effect we want. That's why I say we're just going for the edge. Okay, now here's the tricky part. You gotta do it on the opposite. And that's painting these things silver. That's just the thing that I do. I saw one once, I think. Actually, I may have a couple pictures of some that are unpainted like this. I thought, oh, that's cool. I like that. Because it looks like the locomotive had been just worked on. And they put in a new exhaust housing. Okay, now I've traced around it so I can fill in the paint. And this is one of those things that we'll need to get painted again with the Mr. Metal after we have put our final finish is matte finish. After the matte finish, we go back and we do the Mr. Metal. Yeah, that's starting to look the way I like it. When I gloss coat this, it's going to basically take away all the shininess, and it's going to kind of look like crap. And it's going to look like more crap when I put the matte finish on it, and then I'm going to put the Mr. Metal on it, and it's going to be amazing. Oops, I don't want to get silver. Too late. I already did get some down in there. I want the inside of this to be black, except I want the grill. Oh, crap. Well, we're just going to make it silver. We can fill that in with black panel liner later. And a couple of times with the panel liner, and you'll see the silver edge of the grill, and it'll be black in between them. So that's all prepped up. I've already put my first bit of brown panel liner into the fans. Later I'll have to put another one. Okay, any other details on here we want to hit? How about these hinges? Oop. Okay, if you make a mistake, you take your Q-tip, you dip it in your mineral spirits, okay, and you erase it. Just a tiny touch, maybe a little bit on that guy, a little bit on the ring. These paint, when you paint these details and you enhance them, I like how that turns out. It's something that fine scale modelers do, the guys who make tanks and things, and there are details present. Whoever designed this put a lot of work into the design, and they included a bunch of details, and the idea is to find those details and then make them stand out, rather than going through and trying to cut off old details and just add them back with a detail kit. So there we go. Looking good.